Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and today we're going to do a book review about Caesar and Christ. Now, I do a book review on my channel almost every single week, but this book right here was around 38 hours long. And by the way, this book was written by Durant, a historian in America that basically wrote all the books based on civilization on every single aspect and chapter of humanity, which is crazy to me if you ask me. So he wrote about Caesar and Christ, he wrote about Russian culture, he wrote about almost every single civilization that we have in history, which is pretty cool if you ask me. Now, I thought about a way to apply this video to my financial channel, and in reality, this is not a book just about the Romans or, for example, religion. It's more about a book about civilization. And civilization applies, for example, into finance, into social aspects, into every single thing you can possibly think about. So that's why I'm making this video about this book right here. Now, this book is very long. I mentioned that. There is no way I can do a full summary in less than 10 minutes or 12 minutes or so. So in reality, I picked 3 of my favorite points of this book that I think are going to help you a ton. And then if you do want to read this book fully by yourself, then in reality, I have a link down below to Audible. And when you sign up with my link, it's a free trial for 30 days. And on top of that, you also get 2 free books. And by the way, secret here, don't tell anyone. If you cancel either way, you can still keep those 2 free books. So you can get this book if you want to, and another book. And if you want to read more about history and learn more about finance, I recommend reading The Richest Man in Babylon, one of my favorite books ever. Okay, check it out, link down below, sign up, and let me know what books you actually get. And by the way, I post a review on a book almost every single week, but I do post videos on this channel every single day. So make sure to also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And on top of that, also destroy the like button. And now, the very first nugget that I found in this book is that basically the big things that happen in history usually repeat themselves. It might not be the same road to actually get to those points, but in reality, the big events in history tend to repeat themselves more than you probably think. For example, guys, okay, right now in today, 2020, around May, we still have a virus going on. And you might think, Tommy, this is the first time anything like this ever happened in history. But in reality, if you go back enough, you'll find out that even back in Roman days, they had a whole plague. And that plague actually took down around 5,000 people almost every single day. And that is very, very scary. But the point is, big things like that happen like against humanity in a sense, those things tend to happen, and it won't probably be the first time it actually happened. We just happen to be in a more advanced civilization to a point where we can actually control and actually make sure that most people are actually safe. By the way, the mortality rate of what actually happened back in Rome was actually a lot worse than what actually is going on today. And on top of that, a second event in history that actually repeats itself over and over again is riots. If you think about it, right now in 2020 also, we also have a few riots going on and also some protesting going on. And in history shows you it's not the first time when a certain group of people get taken advantage of, and then eventually those people want some type of freedom or, for example, some type of respect, and then eventually they revolt and they also protest and try to make a change. So in reality, everything you're seeing now, it's not really like a brand new thing, but even more now, it's more of a bigger thing with a bigger impact, because now we have phones to actually show everything that's actually going on. And lastly, for example, you also have the financial sector, for example, a whole country being in massive debt. And even back then with the Roman culture, when people was like, oh, you know what, back then it was like gold and that was the currency. In reality, the more you read about the currency back then, the currency was actually diluted. So in reality, it didn't have this exact same measurement of the gold that it should have in that coin. So in reality, on a gold basis, the coin was worth less, but the entire republic tried to maintain its actual worth, because that way they can actually spread around more money and also more wealth around the entire thing. So the concept of like, hey, the dollar isn't worth anything, hey, the country's in debt, is not the first time anything like this happens before, but it's actually the first time anything happens like this before on such a large scale. So it's a very good thing, and the reason I say this, guys, it's a very good thing to understand what we actually done before in the past, to then understand exactly what's going on in the present and how to move forward in the history. Because the best way to avoid a mistake is by finding out exactly who did it before you and then fixing things, and that way you do not commit the same mistake. But it's also very, very good to take a look at history, because that way you know exactly why things are happening and how things and when things would actually happen. Because in reality, remember what I said, guys, okay? It might not be the same road that lead to the big events, but in reality, you'll see all the signs when things are actually going to culminate to a very, very big event. I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, I want you guys to read this full book because in reality, it's a 38-hour book. I think there's a lot of information in it. And now the second nugget that I found in this book is a bit of philosophy. Now, in modern culture today, we don't really learn that much about philosophy, to be honest with you. Like, all we learn about is like, okay, some history here, some science here, some math here. But philosophy is like out the picture unless you want to take that class separate when it comes to, for example, in college. However, back in Roman days, philosophy was actually something that was very popular, like very, very popular. Now, my favorite quote out of this entire book was a quote about the human person just acting as a stream, and that way they will live a happy life. Tommy, what do you mean a person acting as a stream? The answer is, when you think about a stream of water, or for example, even better yet, a fountain. A fountain has water and it flows up, right? So you see clean water actually flowing up. However, when you have, for example, a person come into that fountain and say like, hey, I want you to stop flowing, I hate you, cursing at you, whatever it is, okay? The point is, the fountain doesn't stop. It keeps going, it keeps flowing, and it also keeps just flowing clean water. And even when another person comes in and throws dirt in the fountain quickly filters all that dirt and goes back to flowing clean water. The perspective of this quote, although it might sound irrelevant today, because basically today we don't have any fountain or any rivers or any streams of water or anything like that. We do, but you know, those, you know, global warming and all that stuff. But the answer is, you know, the entire concept and strategy of that one quote is to basically act in life as if you're a stream of water, and basically anything negative around you, just let it flow. The only thing you can actually control in life is your reaction to situations. So the best thing you can probably do for yourself as a person is to understand that, hey, I can't control what that person says or what that person says, but in reality, I can control my reaction, and I have to keep forward to what I actually want to accomplish. That's the whole thing. There's a lot of philosophy in this book, and in reality, it's actually very, very interesting. You learn about Plato, you learn about Seneca, you learn about a lot of emperors, and it's just like, you wonder why they didn't teach us this, for example, like in school, you know, because in reality, because you might think, whenever I think about history and the Roman culture before reading this book, I thought it was like a culture of like barbarians, like when everybody's just like fighting in wars. But in reality, it was a lot more organized than you probably think, okay? A lot of the things in Roman culture I still see in today in a modern world over like what, like 500 or 1,000 years, like in the future. So a lot of the things in history prior still apply to today, so it's good to see what they did incorrectly so we can also see exactly what we should do and also adjust. And by the way, whenever I say like, hey, it teaches you like the big moments in history, it also teaches you the small moments in history and how you from a personal level can adjust and actually help yourself in several situations. And now guys, the third nugget I found is a nugget all about money. I was very surprised to find out that basically back in Roman culture, well, it was a lot more modern than you probably think in the aspect of finance. You know, a lot of the things we apply today in finance were things that were applied back then, like thousands of years ago. So it actually taught me that, for example, they had a treasury back then. They dealt with inflation back then. They dealt, for example, with making a currency that's not actually worth the exact amount that is actually worth in gold, which is very surprising to me because everyone says like, oh, gold is the best thing. They had coins back then, but in reality, the coins back then were also diluted. And it also talks about lending. It also talks about power. It also talks about wars, but it's also from a very comprehensive standpoint when you actually understand exactly why they did the things they actually did back then and why those actually, for example, a good thing, at least back then in the sense, but also why we behave the way we behave today and why we apply so many things today also. Because the best thing about finance and also humans as a total is that we learn from our history. We learn from our mistakes. So in reality, it's a very good book to take a read at, guys. And although I only talked about 3 nuggets today, guys, I can guarantee that you find like more than 10, probably more than 20, because also it is a 38-hour book, okay? I read the whole thing, and what I learned is impeccable, but I can't put it all in this video because in reality, it would be like a 40-hour video, like probably like double, okay? Because I would keep explaining. But comment down below, guys, and let me know, does this sound like a book you would want to read? And although I know it sounds like, oh my gosh, Tommy, I don't want to read about history. It's not a book that's about history or religion. It's a book about civilization, which includes, for example, history, includes philosophy, includes finance, includes also how to make money, includes how to pay debt. There's so much in this book. I guarantee you'll be surprised. Again, my link is down below for Audible. When you sign up, you get 2 free books, and even if you cancel, don't tell anyone, you still get to keep them. I highly recommend this book, and next week I'll have another book review for you. I'll try to get back on the entire pace and try to hold myself back from reading books that are this dense, okay? Usually 8 hours or 10 hours is gonna be my max. I can do that in 1 week, but 38 hours definitely took me a long time. And by the way, guys, I almost forgot to mention these 2 things right here, and it's that one, Will Durant has around 11 to 15 different volumes of books explaining the entire civilization of history. So if you try to read all of them, you will be there for a while, but trust me, it'll be worth it. The second thing is this, okay, guys? One other quote that I actually enjoyed a lot, one of my favorite ones ever, is by Seneca. And Seneca says, for example, "The only thing that I know is that I know nothing." And when you apply that mindset to today or tomorrow or the past or the next day, it keeps you always trying to learn different things. And that's what your goal should be if you want to, for example, get good at finance, at history, or any sort of career. You never want to become complacent and just listen to like one person. You always want to keep an open mind and always understand the only thing that I know is that I know nothing. Coming from one of the smartest men in history, that's what he said. So always keep an open mind to actually learn and learn and learn. That's it. And as always, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, well, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. On top of that, follow me on Instagram, TommyBryson. Now, before I go, if you want to watch all the book reviews I've done so far, here's a playlist right here. Also, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. And as always, peace.